Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to AVX Live. I'm Joe Gilderson, President of Corporate Audio Visual Services, and this is Ryan Finch, my co-host
Hello,
and
everybody.
Creative Technology Director.
Thank you. Thank you.
We had to take a little bit of time off due to the busy season
Yes.
last couple of months, but look, we're back and we're ready to go. Look how vibrant we look.
Cheerful, right?
And just in case, we're prepared. That's all I'm saying. We have a mask. I feel like
matches your background.
All those terrible videos we did where people took their mask off right as they were about to speak.
Yeah.
Those are terrible. We shouldn't do those again. But either way, that's not what we're here for. Ryan, have you enjoyed your time off?
Time off? What's that?
You mean from the show?
Oh, from the show.
Yes.
That's right. I don't know. I mean, I kind of like doing this every Wednesday. It's, breaks up the week nicely, and, it's nice to get back at it. So yes, but no.
So you're saying you missed it?
I missed it. I missed all of you.
Okay. All right. There's a lot of people involved. Either way, Ryan, before we get into the topic of the day, do you want to let people know how they can find us?
I would love to, and I think I remember how to do it. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook. How about LinkedIn? All of the above. And while you're doing that, while you're watching us, if you could drop us a like, drop us a comment, hit that share button, smash the subscribe button, that would be very much appreciated. And we're going to do this, hopefully, every Wednesday, 1 o'clock. At least we now plan to, once again, every Wednesday, 1 o'clock on those channels. So come on back each and every week and show us some love. How's that? Did I remember?
That was phenomenal.
There we go.
It really was. And I got to hit all the buttons and just have a lot of fun with it.
Perfect.
Well, that's what this was supposed to be. It was supposed to be fun. It wasn't supposed to be real work.
No.
But either way. So today, what we thought we would talk about is really the last 2 months. I was going to start with really something entirely different, which was the 5 key safety tips to working at home. I don't know if you noticed, Ryan's a little banged up there in the nose. But I think HR told me I couldn't do that.
Do what? Put me on the spot like this?
What, you mean like that? Well, yeah. All right. Then we're not going to do that today.
Yeah.
Instead, maybe we'll discuss why we were so busy. And look
Better.
at how things have adapted and changed really over the last couple of months. And, what that means is we had to adapt and change over the last couple of months too. So I have a feeling that some of this information may actually be helpful to people too.
I hope so.
I mean, I'm not sure, but I think so.
That's the plan.
So, Ryan, why don't you tell everybody what are the 3 different types of events right now that we seem to be spending most of the time on?
Absolutely. And if you have, in fact, been living under a rock, the first, of course, being the one we're most familiar with, is in-person events. There's nothing going on outside of that space. We're all here IRL, in real life. Number 2 would be all virtual, which has probably been very familiar for the last 18 months or so, and that is nobody is in the same place. And then we go to the wonderful mystery land of hybrid, in which case there's no rules, there's no format. Every event is wildly different than the next, and any combination of in-person audience, in-person presenters, virtual audience, virtual presenters. It's like a 4-way crisscross, and it, again, mystery land of just complexity and wonder. So, Joe, those are the big 3 right now, and I'd say, hybrid, honestly, came back with a vengeance. We were shocked that there weren't more of that taking place, during the, call it, first stages of this year, or maybe middle stages of this year, but towards that fall, man, everything just shifted gears, right?
Yeah, you're right. When we were in spring, we thought, look at the past shows, we thought everything was going to go to hybrid. Thought it was going to go from virtual to hybrid and then to in-person.
Natural progression.
Whereas everything just jumped over that hybrid thing and went right to in-person. So everything that got scheduled from September, October, November was all scheduled to be in person. But once we hit the beginning of September there, numbers started going up a little bit, and that creepy COVID was coming back a little. Then we went hybrid pretty quick. Pretty quick. So interestingly enough, I actually got some quick numbers for you.
Numbers are nice.
I think people like to have real information,
Should I put these on banners, or did you do that already?
I did not do that. So
we're going to do that. Go ahead.
Please feel free. I only looked at our top 100. You got to remember, we do a lot of events over the course of a couple of months. So over the last 3 months, I just looked at our top 100. And everybody's laughing because they probably did one. So we did 100 of them. And that's just the top ones. We did a couple hundred more that don't really factor into these numbers. But 49% of what we worked on were in person, completely.
Wow.
Interesting, right? So
that number actually surprises me, to be honest with you.
Because the vast majority of it was September.
Right.
September, because the weather was good. We had a lot of outdoor events, even events that would not normally be outdoors. Mm-hmm. There's some covered patios, there's some heaters, there's some tents. A lot of people were outdoors.
Right.
So I think that's a driver in the September number, in the overall 49%. Now, on the hybrid side, was 28%.
Wow. Okay.
And then the all virtual was 23%. So that's a pretty even split right there, right?
I did some quick math. That adds up to 100%. So nice job on that. Well done. Kudos.
I was referring more to the 49-51 side, but
yeah, fair.
But I mean, now what does hybrid mean? It means something slightly different to each group, right?
Right.
And in most of the cases, there was a smaller group in person and a larger group online, but not the recent events. The recent events, we had a bigger group in person and a smaller group online. So it really is. It's a moving target. Now, I've noticed that some of our venues have changed based on the hybrid event and the different numbers. If I only got 50 people in person, I can hold my event almost anywhere.
Right.
I don't need to go to the same, 10 venues that can hold 500 people.
Yes.
Because if 400 of them are online or 450 are online, that's not a big factor. So that's a pretty big difference too, because the venues, there's more opportunities with venues.
Right.
But it's just kind of interesting because honestly, I didn't think that our number was half and half.
Yeah.
But now December is not that.
Right.
December,
what's December looking like?
December is more virtual. I mean, to be honest.
Well, it got cold out.
Well, but that's true. But December, let's see let me go to my very accurate numbers here.
Oh boy, it sounds like paper crinkling right now.
Yeah, it is. It's paper crinkling. I mean, it's folded in like 4 squares. There's little lines, like check.
There we
cross.
go.
Yeah.
I swear we have bookkeepers and things. This is just quick numbers.
Listen, I needed something for the show, man.
All right, go ahead. Read your numbers.
8 and 8. I'm looking at in the next week and a half. 8 in person, 8 all virtual, and then there's another 4 in the middle.
Well, it's still 50-50.
It's a dead heat, But they're slightly smaller events, except for, of course, the one big one we're doing this weekend, which has about 800 to 900 people down in New York City.
Oh, perfect.
Which will easily be the biggest event we've done, and one of the few events we've been back in New York City since all of this. So
right.
It's just different dynamics, and of course that's all the New York City properties. You have to show proof of vaccination. A lot of the events recently have been show proof of vaccination.
Right. Well, that's citywide, right? Now
that is citywide. But all the the events outside of the city, we've noticed there's been a lot more of showing proof of vaccination.
Right.
And all of the responsibility has shifted. Previously, it was really on the venue. Mm-hmm. Venue is no longer taking responsibility because there's no laws around on the state level. At least I don't know about New Jersey, but in New York, Connecticut, there doesn't really seem to be any maximum laws right now. Mm-hmm. So it's just different. Now clients take responsibility for it. But there's also what I heard last night was that 85% of our particular county was vaccinated. It's a
Okay.
really high number.
Right.
So I don't know if that plays out throughout the state and how it plays out through the country, but I heard that last night from the CEO of one of the hospitals that that we worked with.
They would know.
She seemed to know that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that also helps being so tied in with the the healthcare circuit here in Westchester and in New York in general. So we're pretty close to the information on that. That tends to help.
I think you were exactly correct. I even learned how to pronounce Omicron.
Oh, is it? I was going Omicron.
Apparently, you are allowed to pronounce it two different ways.
Oh.
Thank you to our friends at Blythedale Children's
Okay.
Hospital. But Sierra had actually sent me over the correct pronunciation yesterday afternoon
Oh, good.
because, of course, I didn't know how to say it.
Well, it's Greek letter. I mean, it's not exactly a healthcare term. I'm sure there's someone in frat life somewhere in colleges that they're like, no, it's Omicron. I got it.
This is not my area of strength.
Neither mine.
Yeah. Well, now, what's that going to mean to us? I don't think we have the answer just yet.
Nope.
But I do know that last night we had about 400 people in a room, 95% not wearing a mask. Again, it was supposed to be vaccinated only. So some different variables, but people seem to be far more comfortable being around each other at this point, which is great.
Right.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Maybe we want to do a little show and tell.
Show and tell. I'm in.
All right. You want to bring up some shots?
You want to tell and I'll show?
We can do that. Yeah, that
Okay.
works for me.
Deal. Go for it.
Let's go to some in-person stuff first.
Okay. How's this?
That one is 100% in person. And so they had about 300 people. And what they did was recorded it so that they could stream it later, put it on their site, and just use it as a YouTube video later on.
Video on demand, as we once called it.
Correctamundo, Finch.
VOD.
Oh, wow. Don't
Yeah, I know.
go
I had
throwing
to.
This.
I had to.
I mean, you already got an IRL in there. Just,
I know. I did. So proud of myself.
All right, here, Finch. I'm gonna take the lead on one here.
Okay.
Here is an all in person, and this was part of the one we did last night. All in person, no streaming whatsoever. Different, right? All right, let's look at this guy here. This was a combination. It was a hybrid. So in this particular case, they had more people in the room than online. So, but they had about 300 people or so. But they did a full stream, and it was a branded stream, which Ryan, I'm sure, we'll talk about shortly.
Yes.
And then what we had to do for the technical world on that is there's two separate areas. I mean, we've been talking about this for months at this point, but basically what you're seeing on the right-hand side was for the room, and then what you're seeing on the left-hand side was for the online stream. So those are happening simultaneously from two different people. I'm going to take this one. We're going to transition your direction real soon.
Okay.
So this particular event was also a hybrid and a far more complicated hybrid. But in this case, there was only about 20 people in the room, and there was, 100 and something people online. Certainly a national organization. And the funny thing is a lot of the people in the room were also on Zoom, which I didn't totally understand.
Wait, can you run that by me again?
We had remote presenters on Zoom, right?
Okay.
Bringing them in. But many of the people in the room were hooked up to their laptop on that same Zoom, even though we were watching it on screen.
Wow. There's a lot of insights to that where, I mean, what now people are now more comfortable digesting content on their screens, on their computers with their headphones in. I think that's something we've discussed in the past is in terms of what suits virtual best moving forward is pure content delivery. It's a format that works, So, and I think that if there's something that illustrates that any better, I think it might be that, right?
Yeah, it was unusual. I mean, there was a lot of tech to make this work.
That's like standing in a room with somebody having a conversation on the phone with that same person.
Yes, very much so. Now,
We've
in many
gotten
ways,
so used to it.
they really liked the chat because they were able to communicate on an even
with
level
virtual and in-person attendees
with everybody at the same time.
However, interesting insight.
Big stretch on Wi-Fi.
Yes. Yeah, that's the thing that makes the guys in the back of the room behind the tech drapes sweat, is when everyone is using the same Wi-Fi that our whole program is filtering through.
Well, fortunately, we were on hardline like we're supposed to be. But that doesn't mean that doesn't become someone's problem.
Yes.
At some point in the day.
I'm sure we had dedicated bandwidth on that hard line, but
we did.
If we didn't, that's where that becomes a problem. And you only know when everybody starts connecting and things don't work as well. So definitely one of the questions that we tend to ask early on.
Absolutely. Well, Ryan, I just showed a few of in-person and a couple of hybrids.
Okay.
How about you show some all virtual?
Well, all virtual. We had the second annual Westchester Women's Summit, which featured 2 live keynote sessions. The first and second session, of course, I don't have my notes in front of me as to the talent on screen. I know this was Cheetah Rivera. Yeah, go ahead.
Cheetah Rivera. Yes, I was just going to say.
Yes, and I could go back through my notes, but the idea is that these were 2 entirely virtual event, 2 virtual keynotes. There were breakout, we'll call it workshops in between. Those were done on Zoom. They were all centralized on an event website that our partner Nick at Mac Tech Solutions put together for us. So once again, we're talking about grounding our virtual event with some digital real estate, helping us promote the event, helping us drive people to the site, additional sponsor signage, which I believe we also had a little bit of sponsor signage included in that as well. So we got to reap some of the benefits of the things that we're preaching about all the time. But like I said, there were two live keynote sessions, some pre-recorded video, and then those workshops that were highly interactive, running on Zoom in between. So, beyond that, as far as the virtual goes, we've had plenty of online galas, which I know we're going to talk a little bit more about in just a minute. But we had another full season of online galas, which springtime last year kind of seemed like things were starting to taper off, and everybody, to your point earlier, Joe, was heading back in the all in-person direction. And so basically what that means is we had half the lead time and and the same hopes and requirements in many ways, but
yes.
But certainly a full fall seasons of online galas.
Well, and one of the things we mentioned during that was certainly the branding.
Yes.
Right. And that's what plays into a lot of the virtual. And that's when we go to do it on a hybrid as well, you're combining both practices. You're doing the same thing in many regards, but not in all regards. And, the branding to the Women's Summit is very important, just like it is to most of our clients, to be very honest.
Right.
Usually when it's a straight internal event, that's when we're less likely to have the branding. Mm-hmm. And it might just be we're bringing Zoom into something.
It's function over form.
Make it. But it really depends on the event. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Mm-hmm. But since we're discussing that, before we go into the next piece, Ryan, I might have a little clip to break it up. Would you?
A little clip?
Would you mind bringing up my shared screen for a second?
I would be happy to. You can't hit your keyboard command. I mean, you were so excited about that.
I can't, but you
don't want to?
I'm not going to do that right now. How about you bring me in?
I'm going to bring you in. Let's see. What do we got here?
There's a little something. Yeah. That was Ryan Finch.
I haven't actually been into the office yet to see that. That's wow.
Thank you, Alexa, for a well-produced video.
Do I say ho ho ho? Merry Christmas?
I mean, do we have to see it again? I'm just saying. It's pretty good.
It is pretty good. Arts and crafts for the win.
We have to do something.
Wow.
We're We're trying to have some fun here, Finch.
Golf clap.
Very good. Bravo. Bravo. Okay. So, a lot of people know that we've been working on 3 different virtual platforms. We've been talking about it for a long time. Of course, we did everything Pirate University. We discussed our 3 platforms. We also use other things, certainly, but not as much as these 3 because, number one, we're experts in them. Number 2, we find they're just a better fit and have more flexibility. They're also more reliable, which is very important to the tech side.
Yeah.
But Ryan, why don't you walk people through what our 3 virtual platforms are?
Absolutely. One quick shout out to Guy for the drawing. So we didn't thank Guy. Thank you, Guy.
Guy Ventilator. What episode was Guy?
He was
30,
the last one, 31.
31.
Wow. That's right. You may recall from several Wednesdays ago.
I think he was the theater whisperer.
Yes, he was. Oh, the theater whisperer. That's right. We put that on a banner. I do remember that. All right, back to business. So yes, the 3 virtual platforms. A quick breakdown of how we've seen things kind of fall in place the best for each. Starting with Zoom. Zoom obviously being the early winner from the pandemic. It's tough to say winner in this case, but honestly, their product was primed and ready to make the hybrid workforce a reality. Its usability, and how quickly people caught on to it made it the clear choice because ultimately familiarity was so key, especially when we have virtual presenters who maybe aren't the most tech-savvy people. So what we found Zoom working the best for are, quite obviously, webinars, meetings, hybrid events. Hybrid events obviously is the more recent development, and there's some reasons why. But really anything that's going to require a level of real-time participation from the audience. Zoom, the way that it's set up, is all point-to-point, real-time. We can have conversation, without delay and latency, and and that's a little bit different than the way that some other systems work, where we're broadcasting in more of a one-way, situation. So usually one of the first questions we ask is, do we need to see or hear any of your audience? And if the answer is yes, Zoom is usually the first thing on our minds at that point. It has worked incredibly well for, say, on the corporate side, the town halls, the more functional types of conferences. And what I want to iterate is the single track content. And what I mean by that is there is one thing happening at this event at all times. Now, Zoom has some other features. They have breakout rooms. We've done a pretty extensive amount of work with them. We're going to get to Hoppin in just a second, which in our minds is the better solution for multi-track. But again, Zoom being one track, two-way or multi-way, and is really well suited for hybrid. Another key reason why it ends up being well suited for hybrid is because of the level of bandwidth that we need for Zoom is just lower than a traditional HD broadcast. Now, granted, because it's not usually high resolution, so there's a trade-off. But again, there's just no other way, or should I say, it tends to be the best way in our minds to bring a lot of people together in a virtual or hybrid setting in a way that has the least amount of technical hurdles, so to speak. So again, one track and multi-way or two-way, if you want to call it that, communication. The second platform, which we've talked a lot about on this show, is Hoppin. Now, if Zoom is one track, Hoppin is multi-track. And really what I mean by that is in order to get the most out of Hoppin, you need to look at this as a virtual conference. You have multiple things happening at the same time. There are multiple areas to visit at any one time. You might have the general session in one room. You might have a slew of breakout rooms happening at the same time in other rooms. Maybe there's exhibit space that was once in the foyer or hall B. Now it's another button on the left-hand side of your screen. So, the reason why we want to, really drive on the point of it being multi-track is if you try to run it like a webinar, you got a whole bunch of bells, whistles, and obstacles that more or less don't help don't service your event properly. Again, Zoom, very straightforward. Most people have familiarity. And as far as, pure webinar, as far as watching content, tends to be a really easy way to go about it. Well, Hoppin has just so much more to it that if you're not using those tools, it ends up being a not as effective or cost-effective option. But for what it does do, those multi-track events, those conference events, and even when we get into the hybrid scenario, maybe you have multiple sessions happening in the virtual setting for virtual audience where we have different content for the in-person audience. The idea is that you want to use a tool that's designed to service the type of event that you're putting together. And Hoppin just does an excellent job at handling quite a lot and being reliable at a pretty vast scale. I mean, you can have 40, 50,000 people all connected on Hoppin. And the best part is they're all able to be on video and speak. Maybe not all at one time, but that doesn't necessarily need to be the case. So what we found is Hoppin has an incredible video infrastructure, that's set up so that people globally, at a click of a button, can come on and contribute in real time and in person. But again, this is intended for multiple things to be happening at the same time. Now, the third platform that we have also talked about at length on this program is our online galas platform, which is developed in collaboration with Nick McElhaney of MacTech Solutions and, of course, our friends at Hospitality Resource Group. And it is, just like you're seeing right now, a one-stop shop for virtual galas, online galas, if you will. So the idea being it starts with a website, and the website is your digital real estate, is your digital venue. Again, I know we're reiterating things that we've said on the show before, but it is a great way for you to be able to promote the event ahead of time, generate some donations, because as we've seen, Joe, I mean, we just had an instance where in person that day, very recently, they raised just a ton of money in person, and that was really a great experience, where on the virtual side, we tend to not see the influx of donations coming in all at the same time, right? So with the website ahead of time, with the campaign that you're hopefully driving people to it, you're able to generate those donations over the course of, say, the week leading up to your event, because we just know that the attendance may not be live what we'd hope it would be. People don't plan their lives around virtual events like they do in-person events. They don't have to get dressed and get in the car and find a babysitter and this and that.
I mean, I get dressed, right?
I get dressed from at least the top half, as with most people. But again, that took me 30 seconds.
TMI.
Well, look, it's sweatpants.
IRL.
I wouldn't dress like this IRL. So you're right. But online galas, obviously, aside from the website, we also have a much higher quality broadcast, much more graphic heavy. We're doing a lot more with the actual video production and the live video production because it's coming through in high resolution, as opposed to Zoom where things are a little bit scaled down. You can still certainly do some graphics, but they're hosted right on the event site. The branding is there in the video as well as on the site. We have text to give. We have live donation visualization at play here. And then you can see a meter on screen next to our friend Pat Tully. You can have a live MC auctioneer, and preferably someone as well refined as Mr. Tully there for the virtual setting, because as we've seen as well, it is a very different skill set to speak to a virtual audience as opposed to an in-person audience. So that is Zoom, Hoppin, and online galas. Those are the big three for us. And, looking ahead to 2022, I think that's where our focus is going to remain.
Well, I can definitely speak to, we've increased certainly our bandwidth on Zoom. Mm-hmm. It's just required, and of course there's meetings, there's webinars, they have actually some new tools too that, we'll be looking at during some break time. But Hoppin, we actually, we just renewed our contract on.
Oh,
and
right, we did.
Now we've actually expanded into, we're one of like 60 agencies in the world that's part of their, I don't know what they'd call it, but kind of like their marketplace. Because we're looking at that as hybrid, again, being so important for everyone. And Hoppin's proven to be an excellent tool for it. Now, how you design your content, like you were saying, well, that requires some thought, but it can do it. And that's the first thing. The fact that if I'm in the room, I can use my phone and I can text Ryan, who might be at his house watching on the virtual side, and we can then do a one-on-one communication. Hey, buddy, how you doing? I see you got a little banged up here.
Had to get
That's
it one more
something
time, huh?
that's I did have to sneak that one in.
All right.
But that's something that the other platforms just can't do, and not
Right.
consistently.
Right.
Because many of them tried different things. They did something, then they folded, then they got bought out, and Hoppin's received like $400 million in funding. Like they're going straight forward with this thing, and it's proven to be very reliable. Online Gallows is all custom, so that can really be built out to whatever you want. Right now, we're doing a lot of online tables. So everybody's watching the video from one location. And then if they're part of the online tables, then they're actually with their friends right below the video. They can see and hear each other, which is a pretty nice little feature. It's kind of like your own personal table for 10.
Right. It brings back the social element of watching it with people. And, to my earlier point about Zoom being best suited for anytime you want to see and hear the audience. Well, this is a little bit different than that because we're not necessarily featuring any of those participants in the program. The program is still the program, right? You're just watching it with a few friends. And the idea is most of the time you're muted and, you may catch, I may be watching it with Joe and, we get a laugh and now I'm laughing more because Joe's laughing. And, again, the social dynamic, bringing that back in the virtual setting was a tall order. And again, to Nick McElhaney's credit at MacTech, he's done a great job of integrating that type of thing. So we've had some good experiences on it. And, I had popped in for a little tech support at one point, and I got to say they were having a really good time. So, that was really nice to see.
Yeah. And I think it's funny because each group's had different experiences with each of the virtual, and I know we saw some of that with Hoppin too, that an event that we didn't particularly think was well designed for Hoppin, they had a great time, because they were able to interact and because the quality was a little higher.
Right.
It's interesting. But I guess the real question is how people can take this information and apply it to their spring, and potentially summer events. I mean, right now we're looking at the winter and the spring. How are they going to apply these? I mean, what do you think is going to happen?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Obviously the Omicron variant is going to be
That was
a
good.
pretty.
That was good.
I know. I paid attention.
That was really good.
That'll make some impact, similar to how the Delta variant made some.
I mean,
impact.
that was so good.
It's almost like the jolly red man himself.
So
yeah, nailed it. Great. Anyway, the Omicron variant, similar to how Delta kind of changed things, where people had to kind of head back in the other direction rather quickly. I think taking point from that, maybe people will be a little bit more cautious with how quickly they jump into the all-in-person. Dream Team, thank you. Thank you to LinkedIn user. Much appreciated, LinkedIn user.
That might have been me. I'm not sure.
Oh, jeez.
I'm just
Can't
kidding.
comment on your own videos.
It wasn't me. I'm only joking.
Man. Well, anyway, basically
It might have been that guy. I'm not sure.
We don't know. Nobody knows anything, and good luck. No. I just think people will be a little bit more cautious with how many people they plan to pack in, to a space, and that is really no different than right now. It's just we've kind of learned our lesson, I think, from Delta is having no contingency plan until we needed a contingency plan, right? And in that regard, you're going to need to do some legwork ahead of time to make sure that. Oh, wait, hold on. Now we know who LinkedIn user was. I know you. Hi, Julia. Thank you for joining us.
I just
Mystery solved.
You really thought it was me, didn't you? Tell me the truth.
I actually really did think it was you, and I don't know if there's a way to comment on it anonymously.
It wasn't me.
But
It wasn't
Julia,
me.
you're gonna have to drop us a comment and tell us how you did that anonymously. But in any case, Joe, is there any recommendations you have for people kind of getting started? Looking ahead to 2022. Any recommendations for how event planners go about this?
Well, I do think that they have to. They got to add time right now, and they got to start working on it. Because what we saw in the fall was people didn't give themselves any time.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately, we actually have a number of clients, and I'm thinking of one of them in particular. They're our friends at WJCS that they really do get ahead on the game, and like
Yes.
they've got this thing all thought out, and that's how you're going to have success. Is you have to give yourself some time. Um, I think in many ways at this moment the easiest thing to do is probably to budget for them like it's a hybrid, right? And budget for it as two. You can always remove. If everything is going well, you can always take the virtual side off and do what one of our friends did there, where, they had everything in person and then they recorded it. And then you can always put it up afterwards. But it's a matter of trying to think ahead. I think you have to look at a venue that has solid internet.
Yeah.
I don't think that's an option at
Yeah.
this point.
Oh, and for the venues watching, you need to have solid internet,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, at
And
this
they
point,
think they
it's
do.
a-
They
it's an
just tell you about
inter-
Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
like, no.
well, and Wi-Fi obviously is not what we're looking for, but it is a very interconnected world in the events world right now, and you're either set up for it or you're not. And if you need any advice in terms of bandwidth and how to go about that, or what kind of requirements a group like ours would be looking for, send
You
us a
gotta
note.
Call Ryan.
Oh yeah. Oh
No.
wait. No,
Yeah.
no, call this guy. 914-592-9700. That'll ring Joe's direct line, and you
Yes.
can call him day or night.
Absolutely. Whenever you feel like it. Just, you'd be like, I got nothing to do. I'm going to call that dude up. I think a very important thing as well is to determine what you want each audience to see. If
Right.
you are considering hybrid, our friends at Latino U did a great job in
Yeah.
determining what they wanted people to see. And I think that's pretty important. That changes your dynamic. It also changes your budgets, and it changes how much time you need.
Yeah, well, I mean,
So-
and that's a great example of a group that literally produced two events at the same time. They were two separate events. There was a little bit of crossover. I think you showed the tail end of the virtual side of it during cocktail hour, the in-person, but it really was two separate events, two separate workflows, and two separate teams working on it. So from an efficiency standpoint, that was really a great example of a good way to go about something like that.
Yeah, I mean those are kind of like the biggest things I thought of, right away as people are starting to plan right now, because I don't think we're going to know about exactly how this new variant's going to play out just yet. I think we're going to find out soon enough.
Yeah.
Hopefully for the positive. And people decide if they're getting boosters or if they're children, or it's everybody's got their own discussion points at this time.
Right.
But in general, if you're planning for an event, determine what you want audiences to see, budget for two, give yourself plenty of time, and make sure that you're going to have a venue that has solid internet, because you may have to pivot at the last second.
Right.
Are we still using pivot, or is that...
We can still use pivot. Yeah. No, it became a buzzword, but it is the right word.
Oh, wow.
So I know.
Julia, do you think that's still okay to use pivot? I mean, I'm just asking. I'm just asking.
I'm sorry, LinkedIn user. LinkedIn user, please.
I'm sorry. Yeah. But no, I think those are the big things right now as people are looking forward. And again, everybody's kind of doing something different because they're looking at their audience, they're looking at their patrons, they're looking at their staff. A lot of our corporate clients still are not working in their office buildings. So that plays a major factor into it. We certainly use Teams a lot because of that. I mean, Teams is horrible for when we try to integrate it. It's a great tool internally for the organizations, but it doesn't work as well for when we try to integrate. We just have less control over everything.
Right.
But either way, I think those are the big things everybody's trying to figure out. And that, my friend, is what I have for today's show.
Ho, ho, ho.
I knew that would come.
And we are at December 1st. I mean, this is highly appropriate. 'Tis the season.
It is the season. Ryan, do you have anything else that you or any of our guest users... Oh, I see a LinkedIn anonymous user has replied here.
Yep.
Mystery continues. Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow.
All right. Well, we'll figure it out for next time.
My mind was blown.
I know. I agree.
Wow.
And to your question, Joe, I don't have a whole lot. I think it has been a wild year beyond, I think, what even we were expecting. And here is to a less wild, better 2022. Can we say better? I think we can
I
say
think
better.
so.
Yeah.
I think that's in the book.
I think that's in the book.
I think
All
I
right.
can say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Cheers.
I'm not sure. Omicron?
Oh, no.
Yeah. I mean, hey. I deleted the page. She sent it to me yesterday.
Phonetic pronunciation.
I said, I'm not sure how to say this, but
Well,
either
I
way.
think I can speak for all of us when I say I hope none of us have to learn how to pronounce it, and I hope it goes
so
away
as well.
very soon. That would be nice.
Brian, I think it's time for us to wrap this show up.
I agree wholeheartedly.
All right. Well, let's bring it home.
Okay. Well, you can find us every week, hopefully, Wednesdays, 1 p.m. You can like, comment, share, subscribe. Of course, you can do that on the Corporate AV YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook pages, respectively. If you want to go for all three, triple threat, like us on each one. We'll send you a little personalized note, thank you note in the mail. You just have to drop us a line with your address and phone number. And of course, if you'd like to keep it simpler and just add a comment and ask a question on the show, we can do that too. Drop us a comment on whatever channel you may be watching on, and we will try to answer it live during the show. And maybe one day we'll even solve all the mysteries of why LinkedIn comments show up as LinkedIn user. Maybe one day. But until then, sayonara.
Until then, everyone, enjoy. We'll see you soon.